Talk to me. What are your thoughts on? I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but the declassification of the JFK assassination and the MLK assassinations.
Well, you know, I'm more interested in the Malcolm X assassination.
For sure.
That would have been a good one. I think that would be one that creates some cures in the black community and heals some divisions. But the Martin Luther King, JFK, I mean, I look at it as part of Trump's plan to make people distrust the government more, right? And the Democratic basis, which essentially gives him more power, right? He goes after the FBI, he goes after these groups, he paints them as the villains, he creates his own new corporations or institutions or whatever.
A lot of that's going to be privatized.
You trust them more.
Yeah.
Everything that I see them do, I'm asking why and how is it going to benefit you?
Especially with him.
Yeah, because if you're doing something that make people distrust the government and you are the government, how does that benefit? Unless your goal is to have your own government, essentially, or to be able to rule and say, why would you trust the FBI? Look what they did to JFK. Look what they did to Martin Luther King.
I think there's going to be a huge wave of the privatization of a lot of the things that the CIA. I mean, obviously, we've seen it already. Obviously,
oh yeah, they've been on that already.
That's a thing. But I think now it's like if you, I mean, like, and the CIA and the FBI have been running unchecked rampantly for years. I mean, a lot of the people who are being deported are coming from places that the United States government destabilized.
FBI task forces created to watch Marcus Garvey. That's what they was created for. Like, our relationship is the worst for them. Number one, I don't trust none of the files that they actually have, especially the ones that they had on Martin Luther King when they was talking about his sexual habits and things of that nature. Because that nigga, who was the head of the FBI? What's his name? No, not
Hoover?
Truman. Hoover. His whole thing was to discredit black leaders. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes up pure fiction.
Yeah.
Right? To talk shit about a man so that he can discredit him morally so that you don't listen to him.
And how many honeypot operations they were just running on people just rampantly back then, bro. It's like,
yeah, because why wouldn't you publish that at that time? Because that'd be the biggest discrediting facts to the movement.
Yeah.
So I also would caution people that believing that the truth is going to come from the people whose job is to spread misinformation is dangerous.
Facts.
So it's one of those things that, yes, we've been waiting for them, and we feel like they're the holy grail because they never gave it to us, but that don't mean that they're going to give us the truth.
Fact. I mean, I think for me, it's like, is everybody involved dead? Because I feel like that's probably
say that was them, not us.
Right.
It's a new FBI.
Because that's a new
CIA.
It's a new CIA. It's a new FBI.
Right. And these are just the organizations that we know about. I think what you really worried about is the ones we don't know about.
It's crazy to think like the Men in Black movies back in the day.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a version of that. With these UFO hearings that they had, it's like there's a version of the Men in Black.
Yeah.
It's like so many movies that we've been fed throughout the years. I feel like it's just desensitizing us to
100%.
what actually is possible and coming.
What is the Space Force even doing?
Who
you
knows?
get a whole Space Force. We don't hear about their activities at all.
Think about that movie. Was it a year and a half or so ago that was on Netflix that Obama was the executive producers of?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
What was it called?
Yeah, but it literally, I'm like, this is the most realistic.
Right. And then you see he put in the anti-Elon propaganda. They ain't like that.
Right.
That movie was a war. That movie, he's showing that, these Teslas go take over. You gotta understand, they use these tools of propaganda and they push us against each other.
I mean, and
because
that's
the movie was
war.
all about the citizens being the enemy.
Yes.
It wasn't about an outside. It was about how you feel about your neighbor.
Division.
Right. Who is America's biggest enemy? It's
each
within.
Each other.
Empires are destroyed from within.
Yes.
So the prediction is that, America implodes from within. It's too strong for an enemy outside. That destroys the world. But on the inside, if you go look at like the Russian defector Yuri, I forget his last name, but he talked about the demoralization and how it takes like 25 years to demoralize. Yeah. And that means that if they started 25 plus years ago, we would be the children of a demoralized generation. They're not doing it now. It's already been done.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to realize is that when you look at the younger generation, Gen Z, now we're going to Generation Beta and Alpha and all that stuff. But these are the children of generations of psyops being ran on their parents in society. So blaming them for things is scapegoating, right, the next generation for what you've done and what you've become. We often scapegoat, we go look at, and we be talking about, let's say, hip hop, right? And we talk about the emasculation of black men, and then they go point, we see Donald Glover or Pharrell come outside with the auntie pants on and stuff.
Oh yeah, the new picture of Pharrell was interesting.
Wilding.
I didn't know if it was real or not.
That's why Kanye West had to crop it. You know what I mean? He was like, I like the jacket, but he cropped the rest of the fit. But we'll point to the 70s and be like, but in the 70s, we dressed like that. Yeah, them niggas was tripping in the 70s too, literally tripping. That's when European fashion took over, right? Then everybody on drugs. Then they was spreading the pimp movies. You feel me? And then every dude wanted to be Goldie. He wanted to be a pimp back in those days. So they start dressing like that. That wasn't our revolutionary time. That wasn't our high prideful time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's when we was infiltrated with these operations the most, because we was coming off of Afrocentricity and militancy in the 60s. And then the 70s is when they start running all these drug operations on us. You feel me? And then, of course, you get to the 80s, and by the time they got us there, then that's when we become hyper-masculine, and then we start destroying each other. So you can't point to the 70s as a time where we had this renaissance. No, that's when we was the most compromised.